Okay, so this is a demo of implementing single sign-on to SalesForce using a PingFederate IDP. I've got a test tenant with SalesForce, so I'll just go ahead and log into that. And in order for single sign-on to work, I need to configure a custom domain. And you can see here I've already set up this custom domain. You can essentially choose anything you like as long as it's unique within SalesForce. So I'll log in to my custom domain. So I'm going to run PingFederate on my local machine, and I'm just going to edit one of the settings before I start it up. So I'm going to make a change in the PingFederate run.properties file, and I'm going to edit the default HTTPS listing port from 9031 to 443. Next, I'll add an entry in the Windows hosts file, and I'll use a test domain so that any traffic going to this SSO test will be directed to my local PingFederate instance. So I'll start PingFederate, and once it's started, I'll browse to the administration console. I'm not going to connect it to ping1. I'll add my license file and set a base URL and entity ID. I'm going to use PingFederate as an identity provider, so I'll select this role and I'll set my administrator password. So in order for PingFederate to accept credentials, I need two things, and the first of those is a PCV, a password credential validator. So Ping provides what they call a simple PCV, which is useful for testing. So I'll go ahead and add one of those. And this essentially allows me to add a list of predefined usernames and passwords. So when I authenticate, PingFederate will validate the credentials that have been entered against those on this list. The next thing to do is add an adapter. So what that does is it provides a way for PingFederate to accept the credentials. So the type of adapter I'll use is a HTML form. So PingFederate will provide the user with a standard web form where I can enter a username and password. So I'll link this adapter to the PCV that I just created, and I'll accept the defaults. So the next thing I'll do is add my test user into SalesForce. And I'll just complete the required fields. So we now have our two systems, SalesForce, the SP, and PingFederate, the IDP. And I can start to think about creating the SAML connection between the two. So when PingFederate releases the SAML assertion, it's going to sign it, and then service providers will know that it hasn't been tampered with. So I'll just create a self-signed certificate, and I can use that for signing in this test connection. So the next thing to do is exchange metadata between the two systems. I'll start with PingFederate, and I'll just select my certificate that I just created. And go ahead and export the metadata. So if I open this up, you can see the key information about this PingFederate instance, including my entity ID. I'll go back to SalesForce and look at the single sign-on settings. So I have this option here to create a new connection from a metadata file. So I'll import the metadata from PingFederate. And we can see SalesForce has pulled in that information. So I'll just change the name as this is visible to the user. And when I save this, I'm then given the option to export the metadata from SalesForce. So I'll switch back to PingFederate and go ahead and create a SP connection. I'll import the metadata file from SalesForce. And we can see it's picked up the entity ID. I'll just edit the connection name as this appears in the PingFederate admin console to give it a more friendly name. I'll give the option to do IDP or SP initiated SSO. I'll now configure how PingFederate will create the SAML assertion. And I can link this connection to the HTML form adapter. And in the assertion, I'll pass the username that we're going to get from our HTML form adapter. So I'll go ahead and configure the protocols, and here we'll use post and redirect. Since this is a test, I'll deselect the signing options. And I'll sign the assertion with the certificate that I created earlier. So I'll make the connection active and save it. So I'll switch back to SalesForce as I need to change some authentication settings. First, I'll enable SAML, and we can see that's now selected. Next, within my custom domain, I've got the option to use traditional Salesforce authentication, my single sign-on connection, so I can use either of those or both of them. So that's everything, and I'll go ahead and try to log in. And we can see I now have this option, log in using SSO. So if I click that, I'm redirected to PingFederate. And if I enter my username and password, we can see I'm authenticated and logged in to Salesforce.